Supreme Court puts a temporary halt on ballot counting in a local judge's race in Pennsylvania. The ruling on the election last year could affect the current Senate primary.
Pennsylvania state law requires mail-in ballots to have a date next to the voter's signature. A federal appeals court ordered the state to count 2021 ballots, even though they were undated. Justice Samuel Alito issued a stop order Tuesday, temporarily blocking the lower court ruling. The hold is to allow justices to consider the matter more fully. Another order is expected in coming days. After the lower court ruling to count the undated ballots, state election officials advised Pennsylvania counties to count such ballots in this year's GOP primary between U.S. Senate candidates Dr. Mehmet Oz and CEO David McCormick, a race already in the middle of a recount with a legal case pending. Ann Carrick, Fox News.
New water restrictions are in effect in Southern California today because of a drought.
In Los Angeles, residents are only going to be allowed to water their lawns twice a week, and it has to be done before 9 a.m. or after 4 p.m. The city's Conservation Response Unit will be enforcing the rules, handing out fines up to $600 for repeat offenders.
Fox's Jill Nato. The Match 2022. 12-hole golf challenge with just pro quarterbacks hitting the links this time.
Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are teaming up for the 6th edition of this exhibition shamble for charity at Wynn Golf Club in Nevada. The veteran quarterbacks are going up against some young guns, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. In the first edition of the match did not feature any professional golfers. All four.
WPTV's First Alert Weather on WSTU is brought to you by Sailfish Roofing, offering excellence, honesty, and integrity in everything they do. Sailfish Roofing, 772-263-ROOF. Community roofing company you can trust. Sailfish Roofing. Now here's WPTV's First Alert meteorologist.
Your WPTV First Alert forecast. This afternoon, warm and humid with highs reaching the mid to upper 80s. Scattered afternoon showers and storms possible, drifting west throughout the day. Tomorrow, highs in the mid to upper 80s, morning coastal showers followed by afternoon inland showers and storms. Friday and Saturday, soggy weather across the area as a possible tropical disturbance moves over the state. Showers and storms could lead to flooding in some spots with repeated rounds of heavy rainfall. I'm WPTV First Alert meteorologist Katya Hall for WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station.
You are listening to WSTU, Stuart, Jensen Beach, Hope Sound, Martin County's Heritage Station.
It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Good morning and welcome back on a rainy Wednesday morning. We were just talking here in the studio. It is the start of the hurricane season and rainy season, and it's letting us, Mother Nature's letting us know that. So hope you're all staying dry out there and driving a little bit safer as the roads get slick. I have a great show on tap. We have Mayor Matheson in the studio, Merritt Matheson, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things that are happening in the city of Stuart, a lot of great updates. Oh, yes. So welcome back. I'm so glad you're going to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and I'm very fortunate because today we have the mayor in here for the full hour. So if you have any questions or comments, now's the time to reach out to the mayor. You can do that on the studio line, 220-WSTU, 220-9788. And of course, as always, I'm watching the Facebook Live feed. Also want to thank my sponsors. First one, Commercial Mortgage, COVID, unexpected expenses, illnesses. There are many issues that can cause your successful business to slump deep into the red. We are here to help, and we only get paid if we provide you a workout. Debt restructuring is complicated. We're the negotiator between you and your creditors. Commercial Mortgage has been in the industry of small balance corporate finance since 2003. Our focus is on challenging corporate foreclosures, debt restructures, equity, and new debt solutions. These issues are often not easy to see or understand when you run a business and are faced with multifaceted debt challenges that include legal action on various fronts. That's where we come in. We never charge a front fee or deposit, and we're only paid if we successfully provide you a debt workout. Areas of expertise include hotels, marinas, office buildings, restaurants, apartments, multifamily, condos, golf courses, home builders, and land development, including new and repurposed developments. Call Commercial Mortgage at 772-872-6099 or visit them online, commercialmortgagellc.com. And the best kept secret in Martin County, you can come by boat, car, or stroll the boardwalk. It is the Fish House Art Center in Port Salerno, down in the pocket. So much to do there. They have a boardwalk that features the local artists. There's an Airbnb if you want to stay down there, an art gallery, boat charters, a marina, craft and creamery that has craft beers, wine, and 24 flavors of ice cream. So something for the entire family.
Oh, yes.
Paddleboard rentals, bikes, you name it. So the Fish House Art Center, you can check it out online, fishhouseartcenter.com before you head down. But what a great place to visit with your family or bring some friends along as well. And finally, here it is. Today is officially the start of the hurricane season, as we were saying. And folks, I can't tell you enough how important it is to reserve safe harborage for your boats now. You want to do that before a hurricane is named, because I can tell you, Merritt, we just had a new marina that was approved. We're going to talk about that in the show, but it is so tough to find safe
By the time a storm's
harborage.
coming, you don't have a chance to get an opening.
You don't. Once it's named, you might as well. I hate to say it, but batten it down.
They're going to be picked up.
They will. So Indian Town Marina, it's one of South Florida's best boat storage facilities. It's really located quite, inland on the Okeechobee Waterway, so very, very safe hurricane hull, very well protected. And it's also a do-it-yourself or a full-service boat yard, so you can get a lot of work done on your boat while it's out there. But again, folks, call them up today. Get your spot reserved. I can't stress that enough, and you can do that at 772-631-3272, 631-3272. When these hurricanes are named, I know you'll be thanking us for giving you that warning. Get out there and be safe. So, Merritt, there has been so much going on. I appreciate you coming down here today to the studio. And
Absolutely.
It's exciting times. I was able to attend the last meeting, and we'll kick the hour off with one of the most exciting new projects here in the city that we're going to see from downtown Stuart. And it's Atlantic Point Marina. And my gosh, I have to say the design of that marina, because these are big barns, but they really worked hard to make it fit into the community, and it's just going to be a destination point, I think.
Oh, yes. Casey, thank you for having me, and thank you and everyone else who attended our last commission meeting last Monday. There were a couple, important topics, and the Atlantic Point Marina was certainly one of them. For those that are unaware of its location, that was the old Evinrude test facility. So on the north side, the North Peninsula, across from downtown Stuart, as you go, say, east under the Roosevelt Bridge, it would be on your left there by boat. And that's been basically vacant for many decades.
Long time, yes.
So environmentally speaking, that project was great. They worked with the DEP. They removed some old fuel containers. They dredged many feet of muck out of the turning basin of the marina and around. That property really had no landscaping on it at all.
Right.
So just that, they went well above and beyond our stormwater codes and our landscaping codes. So the water hitting that site now will have a chance to be filtered before it ever goes into the river, whereas prior to that, the way it had been for decades, you just get sheet flow off into the river, plus, that old historic site was basically just shut down and left there.
Right.
There was a contentious topic and proposal that was bundled with the entire marina, which I think most of the community was very supportive of Atlantic Point's proposal and what they brought forward and was approved 5-0.
Right.
Being the new marina, dry storage for boats, wet storage. It's no overnight slip, no liveaboard. Sorry.
Right.
You are allowed to stay overnight. Usually it's up to, I think, 5 or 6 nights at a time, which is typical of most marinas. So transient boaters can stay there. They're going to offer a lot of amenities to the public. Even if you're not staying there, they'll have a small takeout restaurant where you can go and sit on the property there. But
right on the water's edge, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the real important things that the city has done very well, and it's important for myself as mayor and the other commissioners to keep doing, is public access to the waterfront. And Atlantic Point Marina listened to me and the other commissioners as one of our big conditions. Residents can go there by boat. People can go there by car and walk through the marina and walk to their boardwalk and stroll. That's going to be piece number one of the envisioned boardwalk of the North Peninsula of Stuart that is in a lot of commissioners' minds and plans that we envision. Just a boardwalk mirroring what we have, around downtown.
Right.
We can do that same boardwalk if we work with private property owners on the North Peninsula.
And Mayor Matheson, I envision there's going to be a lot of growth on the north side. It just seems like the next area that's ready to really welcome more foot traffic. Right now it's more car traffic, but I think it's going to be developed more so it's more like downtown Stuart. You kind of envision more of the stores and this marina, that kind of thing, where people can get out, walk, and enjoy our waterfront. And I'm thinking through there too, there's also a couple little walk down parks. They're very small, but there's little water access throughout the north part of the Stuart as well. It's very, very unique.
Exactly. And so any proposal, even down as you go, say, northeast towards the Tide House restaurant in Harborage, at some points you may have to walk on the sidewalk along the street. But what we're really trying to do is work with any sort of projects that come forward to us to keep public access to that waterfront open and encourage it pedestrian use. Atlantic Point, again, is going to have at least an 8-foot sidewalk along Flagler there. Boats, local residents are going to be able to go by boat. And one of the other important things they're doing is they're going to have temporary, loading and unloading for a future water taxi service. We already have the Tiki Taxi that goes from our downtown docks to the Tide House. What I envision is more water taxi services and more locations, whether it's in Stuart, Rio, Palm City, of various water taxi services. They don't all have to be the Tiki Taxi theme. Some might be point A to point B. Others might be more of a sightseeing type of taxi service. But for me as a elected official, part of my job is to work with private property owners to build those locations, and those stops on the water so that we can facilitate that taxi service, basically.
It's going to bring the North and South Stuart together because we are divided by the water.
Exactly.
So being able to have that taxi service is huge. And, for a developer, and I know Straticon is part of the group, and the owners, they must have been absolutely wonderful to work with, because you don't always see private property owners that are so willing to, open up their property and say, yes, we want the public here. We want to make sure they have access to the water. And as a matter of fact, they're allowing a slip for the taxi, and I think the Stuart Police Department as well.
Exactly. That's another thing that they were very grateful of Straticom and their whole team. One of our concerns, which we might talk about later, is Brightline coming through. And no matter what your thoughts are on Brightline, that rail bridge is going to be down. Well, currently, our Stuart Police Department boat is on the west side of the rail bridge. And we're working, Atlantic Point has graciously offered us a slip on the east side. So depending, how we move forward in the future, we'll have an area to stage our boat on either side of that rail bridge, which is incredibly important for public safety.
It truly is, and that bridge is something that definitely bifurcates the river, and being able to have ocean access and get through. And that bridge is down there. The clearance is, if you have a T-top, you're not going to get under the bridge. I don't know what the feet is particularly, but it's...
I do, but I want to touch back to another on Atlantic Point. Straticon, the project developer, is local, and that's one thing that always comes up here in my conversations with residents is there is a true benefit to having a local company and a local developer do some of the work. They are going to highlight Evinrude outboards and the history of that site.
There's quite a legacy with that property. You talk about the Evinrude, but it's I'm glad you're saying that, because in the presentation that they presented at the meeting, we saw a lot of the history, and they're going to make sure there's memorabilia that people can come and see from the old Evinrude plant, and some of the motors and some of even the office, the
one
pines.
building they preserved has original Dade County pine, and that's going to highlight the history of the site. And while that site was operating, it was not open to the public.
Right.
So this is a great opportunity for people to see what went on there, to see the evolution of the outboard motor, and one of its, at the time's, biggest manufacturers,
right.
and leading in that technology. They listened to the commissioners and the residents about the project, which, as you said, was very important. There was that contentious topic of a lighthouse,
right.
an artistic piece lighthouse that would have surpassed our height limit. The proposal was an 83-foot tall lighthouse. That may have been one of the reasons why the commission chambers were packed
right.
on their proposal.
I think so.
But thankfully, they withdrew that proposal before the meeting. And, I think the city commission is very strong that we want to preserve our, generally speaking, 4-story height limit that is in the city of Stuart and Martin County as well. That's very important, and that's what makes Stuart unique. One of the very important things. And we highlight our true historic pieces, like our water tower, that break
right.
that limit.
Right. There are, I think, the hospital and the water tower are the two things
Those
that
are
we
the two main important pieces that when you look out over the skyline, and obviously the hospital, we have a real need for public safety.
Right.
And, in that confined space, logically, it meant sense for it to be above the height limit,
It does, and I think it is, again, like you said, a local developer. He understood the passion that the local people have for that height limit, and the reason why everybody feels like it's a slippery slope. Once you allow one project, what's the next? And I understood the lighthouse wasn't residential. Nobody's going to live in it. So
exactly, and that's where our code refers to, occupied structures of breaking that height limit, but it's a very slippery slope, and I agree with all the comments and feedback that was given to me, and I thank everyone who sent me comments, whether it's via Facebook, email, phone calls. That helps me as the mayor, when I
right.
hear from residents.
It's important, I'm sure.
It's incredibly important, and our height limit in and of itself is very important to keeping Stuart unique.
It truly is. And we're going to have some of the connections in the future from Atlantic Point as well. But I know the Mariners are so excited because, we were talking about this at the beginning of the hour, Merritt. I mean, it's tough to find space. There's so many people that have moved to Florida, and that means more boaters as well. Martin County is I think it might be, is it number 6 in the state for boat registration? It's right up there. A lot of
it is topping the state. And Florida is consistently topping the
right.
country. And, that's one of the benefits or detriments of being, the happiest seaside town.
That's right.
And stuff like that, is people want to come here.
That's right.
And we welcome them as tourists, and of course, many want to stay, and then they want to find a place for their boat. And, I'm sure Atlantic Point Marina will fill up quite quickly.
I'm sure they will too. There's limited space available on the water for marinas, and what a beautiful location. And folks, I encourage you to look at the drawings and the renderings. You're going to be very impressed with what these developers did. It's a lot of money. I think it's about a $60 million project.
Yes.
This isn't. They're putting a lot into it to make sure it's going to be
all
gorgeous.
Out, did it right, took a site that was degraded, that needed restoration, that needed environmental mitigation, and they're bringing it back up. So I'm excited to see what it looks like when it's completed.
Right, and I think it's projected for the fall of 23. So we'll see. But again, that's a fantastic project that was just in front of the commission and passed, again, 5-0. A lot of support, and a lot of support from the community. You spoke about the bridge, and it is on the east side of the bridge, so it's not going to be impacted by the train, and I think that'll be a big draw for that marina as well. But let's talk about Brightline for a little bit here. Right now, the U.S. Coast Guard is requesting for public comment about the bridge and how long it's open. Do you know anything more about that?
So, I want to encourage everyone, if you have the link that you can put up there for where people can submit their public comments regarding our waterway. Keep in mind that is the only cross-Florida waterways right here under the bridge.
That's right.
And, everyone listening needs to understand that Brightline has approval and will be running passenger trains. Right now they're running test trains so the engineers can get adjusted to the tracks. But they intend to be running trains the first quarter of 2023 over the existing bridge as it stands. It's a single track bridge. It's going to be the only single track section of rail, from Palm Beach to Orlando there. And of course, it's going over our waterways, which is the only cross-Florida waterway. So for larger boats that can't pull out of that and haul into dry storage like we were talking about with Atlantic Point, one of the best and wisest decisions is if a named storm is coming is to run.
Right.
And one of the ways to run is to head across the state through the Okeechobee Waterway to Fort Myers there. And with that train bridge, that can slow boats down. And you're not talking one or two boats here. You're talking 50, 60 or more, 100 boats.
And a current in that area, too. You're a boater.
Exactly,
you know how the current is.
So, I've been working with Brightline, seeing the absolute need for a new, higher bridge. And a week or two ago, I guess, they came out public with new engineered plans that they can do to have a double-track, higher bridge that would not interrupt all our grade crossings in downtown Stuart. That's one of the important things.
Huge.
You have to start the incline after those grade crossings so you're not interrupting those crossings that currently exist in downtown Stuart or on the north side of the tracks. Then they also have to factor in freight, which can only increase at about a 1% incline with all those the freight trains coming through.
Right.
And they've come up with engineered plans to put a new double-track bridge on that hits one of the marks I gave them for City of Stuart that is the most important mark. And that is get a bridge that when it's in the down position is higher than our existing Roosevelt drawbridge, and when that is in the down position. And what I wanted to be able to say to support a new train bridge was that, look, if you're a boater and you can get under our Roosevelt drawbridge when it's in the down position, then when the new Brightline bridge comes through and it's in the down position, your boat will be able to get under it. So their new plans, our existing Roosevelt drawbridge, when it is down, is you have a 14-foot clearance above high tide. Their plans are showing with the Brightline bridge, double-track new bridge, would be a 16-foot clearance above high tide. Their plans also would increase the width, the span of the opening when two boats can safely cross side by side going under that bridge clearance.
That's another big deal.
Not only do you have the height clearance, but you have that width.
Right.
So for everyone out there, the existing Roosevelt bridge clearance is 80 feet wide. Most boaters know that actually the narrowest point right now under that section is the rail bridge.
Right.
Their new plans have a width clearance of 90 feet. So it would be wider than the existing Roosevelt and higher. And also it would be double-tracked, which is incredibly important if you think about how rail works and you have multiple trains going up and down a two-track system.
Right.
Where's the other train going to be stopped and stationed while one train is going over that single-track bridge?
Right.
Well, right next to us, right south of it, is downtown Stuart with an incredible amount of rail crossings and car crossings there.
That's right.
So one freight train that could be 100 cars long could be stopped on the double tracks waiting for another train to cross that single track bridge.
That's right. And as boaters, we've all waited. I mean, I've waited up to an hour and a half before because trains were coming north and south, and they kept the bridge down for them both to cross by the time, one had to pull over and wait. So that would be huge if they double track that and they are able to raise it. I'm glad to hear that. I know one of the things that they were always concerned about is with the freight trains, they were double stacked and still making it under the Roosevelt Bridge.
Yes.
So it's a tricky area to fix.
There was, and I've given Brightline and their representatives the information, about the width and height clearance of what's really important to Stuart and boaters. But there was a lot of engineering work that came into the plans that they've proposed, and a lot of limiting factors that they had to consider.
Yes.
And it's important for everyone to know out there when we talk about Brightline that they own the tracks. Florida East Coast Rail does, and Brightline is working with them in various agreements.
Right.
And, City of Stuart has no authority to stop that train.
We actually lease to run our roads over their tracks.
Exactly. If everything got back into the courts and everything went, into fighting as much as it would, Florida East Coast Rail owns that land that goes right through downtown Stuart.
A lot of parking spaces on their land,
A lot of
too.
parking spaces that they could, a lot of, lease spaces that they could end. Think about just crossing Confusion Corner.
Yes.
And if Florida East Coast Rail put a fence right up along that where cars could not cross Confusion Corner. So, we're very big and should be on property rights here in America. But,
we have to pay attention to it. I mean,
we have to pay attention to those and who owns that land.
That's
and
right.
legally, you have to follow the laws of the land. And, for me, that means, look, if the train is coming, I need to do everything to make it the best for the residents of the city of Stuart.
That's right.
And surrounding residents.
We're going to talk more about that, Mayor Matheson, when we get back. Our first half hour is up already. We're going to take a real short break, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Forbearances, working remotely, internet shopping, retail space, and rental income have been hit hard by COVID. If you're looking to restructure your debt, obtain financing or equity, Commercial Mortgage can help you out. Tim Mullen at Commercial Mortgage has been providing debt restructuring services since 2003. Tim never charges a front fee and all consultations are free. Tim only gets paid if he provides you a debt workout. Looking for a debt solution or financing? Give Tim a call at 772-872-6099 or visit commercialmortgagellc.com to schedule your free consultation.
You are listening to WSTU, Stuart, Jensen Beach, Hope Sound, Martin County's Heritage Station.
You're listening to The Casey Ingram Show on WSTU Digital 1450. Call in with questions and comments at 220-9788. 220-WSTU. And now back to the show.
We're back. We have City of Stuart Mayor Merritt Matheson in the studio with us today, and we have so many topics we're going to talk about, and I was just telling Merritt I think I could have him here a couple hours to get through everything, but we're going to try and cover a few more here in the next half hour. Brent Wallenberg, I appreciate you tuning in. Going back to the boat storage at the marina for the police, how about having policemen and firemen working strategically from their homes so they can arrive on scene in the record time? But for boats, they're not necessarily all living on the river. So, you've got one or two police boats, so it's not everybody has one. So,
and statistically wise, our police and fire are well above average in arrival times. And so, when our officers are there, there's someone on shift.
That's right.
Ready to respond to a call. And when they're off, we do like to respect their time off. But 100%. Others of our force are still on shift there.
100%. Mayor, you had spoke a little bit about developments, and they're all over in the city and the county. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about how people can maybe track these developments and know what's coming up?
Absolutely, Casey. So one of the good things, I serve on the Martin MPO board with some of the other county commissioners and another City of Stuart commissioner. And that's always been a hot topic, is where are developments happening? How can we get the public the proper information of developments going on? And where are they in the timeline of the development process, from landowner applying to develop their land in a certain way, and then all the way up to certificate of occupancy. Where do they stand? And so the Martin MPO has created an interactive development map that encompasses all of Martin County, and you can zoom in and zoom out in different areas, and you can turn on and off filters, such as City of Stuart filter. You can turn that on and off and only look at the projects being proposed in the City of Stuart. You could do the same in Indiantown, Sewell's Point, Jupiter Island, or just Martin County, unincorporated Martin County. And there'll be different shadings of the development proposal to show where they are in that development process, from application, from review by advisory boards, review by city or county, and it'll show the development size on a map, over Martin County or the City of Stuart there. So it's an incredibly useful tool for residents who are concerned about growth, which is always a very large concern for myself and every resident I talk to.
That's right. Just so you know, I have that link in the comments on my Facebook page. And if you're not on Facebook right now, but you can just Google Martin MPO.
Exactly.
And you look towards the right side of the page, and you'll see an interactive map that you can click on.
Yep. Again, Google Martin MPO, and right on that right side of the page is an interactive development map. Click on that link, and it's a very useful tool to get informed about projects that are being proposed near you or anywhere in the county, city, or whatnot.
It's very interesting because that is certainly the talk of the town right now, is all the development that's going on. I mean, there's been such an influx of people here coming to Florida. Our home prices have absolutely raised astronomically. I think I read it was in the last year it's like 44%, something like that in the paper. It's just an incredible amount. But with that too, Merritt, I think it might be good to explain a little bit about there are a lot of apartments and multifamily units that have went up around the town, but you were just talking about property rights. This is just my opinion, but I think that a lot of the property, if it's zoned for something and was approved for something, all of a sudden the money has come in, and that's why there's so much building going on. Mm-hmm. Right now it's just a really interesting point in time. With all the people moving here, all of a sudden it makes it worthwhile for people to be able to build these buildings, build apartment buildings. And so this property that's been sitting vacant for all these years, all of a sudden, it makes financial sense to be able to do these things. So it appears like a lot, but there's reasons behind it.
There's a lot of great points you bring up, Casey. And we're in a very different economic time than we were, over roughly, say, the past decade.
Right.
We're at the end of the last recession, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, and on. There was very little building. But, we're a country based on property rights, very much so in the state of Florida, which Tallahassee dictates those rules and regulations and controls what local governments can or can't do, justifiably so. When someone owns their land, they know when they purchase it what they can do without having to ask for any variances or whatnot. So a lot of, in the City of Stuart, for example, we don't have any land zoned for agriculture. And, general land planning, of course, that's not my background, but land planning 101, if you want to conserve some areas, perhaps you should focus your growth in your city, in your urban core, so that you can preserve anything outside of your urban area, outside of your urban services boundary, which we have here, all of City of Stuart's in it, and outside of that, you have a lot of Martin County in that. But outside of that urban services boundary where you provide water and sewer, so you might want to have minimal development. To reduce the sprawl outside there, you might need to, allow and try and focus your development in your urban core.
Within the boundary.
But speaking of property rights, if someone buys a tract of land and it is zoned commercial, they have a right to build, what's dictated by our code under commercial. For example, a storage unit can be built under commercial zoning. Or if it's zoned multifamily, they have a right to build. Now, when they want to ask for variances on that, they typically have to come through our development review process through, a citizen advisory board.
Okay.
And then to the commission. But the important part is the commission isn't weighing just keeping that land undeveloped. We're weighing a trade-off for the variances they might ask and public benefit options they might provide in exchange for those benefits as compared to what they can build by right. Not keeping the land. We have absolutely no authority unless the land is already zoned conservation. We cannot prohibit private land from being developed for what it is zoned for. Now, in some cases, that might be 1 or 2 parking spaces, and we might get a lot of benefit. And that benefit could come in terms of, increased landscaping, stormwater, public electric vehicle charging stations, wider sidewalks that go onto the private property so people, pedestrians have easier means of transportation that way. There's numerous different, options in what we can push for or they can be proposed for public benefit. One of them that always comes up is affordable housing. We have quite a bit of restrictions on what we can demand as far as affordable housing from developers. Generally speaking, if we demand affordable housing, per Tallahassee, we have to compensate the developer based on the difference in market value.
Interesting.
That way, with different bonuses, such as density bonuses, impact fees, other ways. So in a way, we try, some of it, though, the developer can propose affordable housing, but we can't, as a commission, make any of our variances contingent upon it. So it's a gray area, but we are limited to some extent by that ability as a municipality from state law. But growth is always a hot topic issue.
It is,
and we should always be trying to conserve as much land as possible. But really, the ultimate goal is to get that land into conservation land.
Right.
That's the holy grail, so to say, so that it will never be developed. And you can drive by that land and say, that's conservation land. It is totally different than driving by a parcel that might be a few acres that is zoned commercial.
It's privately owned already.
Privately owned. Someone else might have full authority when the market changes, which is what we're experiencing now.
Right.
To take that property that might be a few acres that you've grown up your whole life with and seen it as, green land.
That's right.
But if it's zoned commercial and someone owns that and they decide to sell it or develop it, there's a set of rules per our code of what they can do without it coming before any government body.
I appreciate you going in and explaining some of this, because I know this is a contentious topic for a lot of folks in the area, and it's good for people to understand that, as a commission or as a government, you don't always have the authority to tell people what they can and can't do. Within guidelines, you can tell them what they can or can't do, but it's within those guidelines. You can't just say, we've had enough storage facilities, we're not going to have any more.
Exactly.
The city has the website. You have all your muni codes on there, your municipal codes, and if you go there, you can look at every address, and it lets you know what's can be built or not built, and what it's zoned for. So that's really your guiding policies, your guiding principles.
We have our comp plan and our land development code. Both, if under muni code, you can pull up City of Stuart comp plan or City of Stuart land development code, and one of the things is you can search keywords on that. So you could type that in and search height. And every line item where height is mentioned can be pulled up. So you
very user friendly.
An investor, or kids here growing up, when they're looking at property to purchase and maybe build their new home, they can search the zoning and search nearby properties, which is another very important thing. Know the properties. If you're looking at buying a house, do a little more research and learn about the zoning of the nearby parcels next to you. Even if they're undeveloped at the time, it will help you in the future if you look into it to know, is that conservation? Is that multifamily residential, or is that commercial?
That's right.
You'll know what the future might hold.
So you're not going to be surprised if an apartment building is out your back door in the future, because it could be by what it's zoned. So those are really good points. And speaking of things that are happening in the city, at the meeting last Monday, there was some discussion about Palm City Road, because with all our influx of traffic and people moving here, that shortcut has really become well known. So it's a heavily traveled area now. So there's been some speed bumps that have been installed.
Yes, and full disclosure case, thank you for bringing that. I live off Palm City Road, as do a couple of the other Stuart commissioners in that general area. And the speed bumps, roughly about 3.5 years ago, I call them speed bumps. They're raised pedestrian crosswalks, so that the residents of that area can cross the street safely. But there's still an incredible amount of traffic, and that road, which generally speaking, anyone that lives near it or on it would deem as a residential road, with houses right up to that road, is used as a shortcut, as you said. And even with the raised crosswalks there, cars, are constantly traveling down that, constantly exceeding the speed limit. And it's always an issue, always has been. We have some long-term plans that I'm working on with the city and with the Martin MPO, but a short-term proposal was brought up by our vice mayor in the city of Stuart, Commissioner McDonald, a month or so ago, about adding a stop sign along the road to make that road safer, to allow cars to enter the road and pedestrians to cross it, just like the raised crosswalks do. Our staff came back with the proposal of a stop sign on Indian Groves there, one of the through streets, to make it a four-way stop there. And there was some contentious discussion during our meeting. Now, as the mayor, I'm the chair and running the meeting. We follow a set of orders, the Robert's Rules of Orders, of how you run that meeting. I have some flexibility, but as commissioners, we take the information that our staff has given us and the topic that will be discussed on that agenda, and we do our job. We go out to the community. We discuss with residents who will be directly impacted by that. So, for example, that stop sign proposal, I know I went out and talked with those that live along Palm City Road, got their opinion and their feedback, and also talked with people that just drive around the city of Stuart and got their opinion and feedback on it. So I can have the most information. I can also talk to my city staff when I go to the meeting and discuss that and vote on that topic with my fellow commissioners. And we had a couple attempts at a motion One was made by Commissioner Meyer to approve the stop sign and staff's recommendation. That was not seconded by anyone. Now, following Robert's Rules of Order, if there is a motion and after a short time pause, no other board member decides to second that motion so we can have a vote on it and have public comment on it, I'm supposed to continue that meeting on. One of the other things I'm supposed to follow is, as the chair and the mayor, I don't make a second or a motion. I run the meeting.
Okay.
Now, I am allowed to pass the gavel to the vice mayor for that agenda item topic if I choose to make a second on a topic. But I take that move very seriously, and I also know we have 5 commissioners. If there's a motion made, anything to pass needs 3 votes. If I need to pass the gavel to be the one to second it, none of my other board members are going to step up and second it, then the odds are pretty good it's not going to pass.
Not going to have 3 votes. Right.
You know, and that is, I consider it a very serious move to pass your position as chair of any board meeting to do something like that. So, of course, that motion for a simple stop sign and following our staff's recommendation and the proposal that we all had a chance to go out and vet in the community failed. Directly following that, Commissioner McDonald, our vice mayor, made a similar motion adding a stop sign, but he wanted that stop sign to have lights on it, flashing red lights, and also to tie that addition of the stop sign to, in the future, moving some of the pedestrian crosswalks near Manor Drive and Palm City Road, so that we could add a second stop sign there in the future. So he kind of presented this pre-bundled package, and there was a little bit of discussion. His motion did not get a second as well. Following Robert's Rules of Order, generally I should just move on with the meeting. I deviated a little bit and allowed for some public comment and a little further discussion. I explained my point of view was that, look, that proposal deviated from what we as board members had the information to go out in the community and vet. There was no prior discussion of moving a raised crosswalk or any prior discussion of a lighted stop sign.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to discuss that with people along that road, people traveling that road, or our city staff of how that would impact our budget. So generally speaking, I think it's always good policy for any board to discuss what's on the agenda. So what the public knows about, what the board members have had a chance to vet. And then unless there's an absolute necessity, time is of the essence, you have a hurricane bearing down, you need declared state of emergency or something,
Right.
You can shift it off to a later meeting and give every board member and the members of the public a chance for input. I mean, the detriment of that is government works incredibly slowly. But
Right.
it also, public input is incredibly important. And
Agreed.
vetting any proposal is incredibly important. So, Casey, needless to say, the outcome of the meeting, his motion for all that prepackaged bundle did not pass. And there was discussion again of just the staff's recommendation of just a stop sign. And Commissioner McDonald again came back with just a stop sign, but he wanted it to be a lighted stop sign. And I do distinctly remember Commissioner Meyer saying, it's a stop sign.
Right.
Drivers should obey a stop sign.
Right.
And our Vice Mayor, Commissioner McDonald, still was adamant about his motion of it being a lighted stop sign there. And that did not receive a second from anyone. And for me, I chose, again, not to pass the gavel for that. I didn't have time to vet it. It's important for me to go out and talk to the people that might be trying to sleep when they see that lighted stop sign, if that was the proposal,
Right.
flashing outside their window every night. And it's important for our officers. What are we sending a message to the public? Is a lighted stop sign different than a regular stop sign? Shouldn't both stop signs be
Right.
obeyed?
Right.
So, at the end of the day, nothing happened, and we had to move on with the meeting.
So does this mean that Palm City Road is going to remain the way it is right now for the time being, at least?
For the time being, at least, that's the beauty. We meet every 2 weeks, and any commissioner can bring up a topic for discussion, and usually then we will have our staff vet it, put it on the agenda, give every board member the time to go out to the public and try and get feedback, in our different circles,
Right.
and discuss it. But for the time being, frankly, I'm frustrated that it did fail with the proposal of a stop sign there. But for now, it's there. We do have some long-term plans of hopefully adjusting the traffic signal at Palm City Road and US
Okay.
1. Our MPO staff will be reviewing that, and they're the local professional traffic analysts that will be reviewing that intersection, which is a high crash intersection over this next fiscal year. But again, that's a large, impact financially.
Right.
And the MPO board is a, 5 and 10 year time frame project, but it also works with state and federal dollars.
Okay.
So that's the route in which to discuss examining, that intersection or any other intersection. And of course, as many of the listeners out there know, I'm sure, one of the big problems is that hot right as you're coming down
That's right.
from the Roosevelt Bridge at those high speeds, and then you veer off onto
is.
Palm City Road
That's
and
right.
keep those high speeds going.
People tend to keep that pedal to the metal, as they
Yes.
say. So, and it's just a continuing problem, and that's just one road of many. But that's just one of the main shortcuts it is
Yep.
between Palm City and Stuart. So, I'm sure more discussion will come up about it here in the
It will
future,
always
and
be,
we'll figure something out.
on
right?
our minds of ways to improve and make that road safer, just like many other roads.
That's right. It's something we're kind of dealing with countywide. We only have 5 minutes, and I would be remiss if we did not bring up the water. And as it's raining today, we're heading into the rainy season.
Absolutely. Today, June 1st, as you mentioned, is the calendar start of hurricane season, and then
Right.
the rainy season, and here it is. We just had a
Pretty good shower.
A good shower just
coming
come
into the
across
studio.
us. Locally, one of the most important topics is regulatory discharges from Lake Okeechobee. And we are in a fairly good position. For me, I'd always like to have the lake at a lower level.
Right.
The lake right now sits at 12.6 feet or so.
Okay.
Generally speaking, the Corps, would be satisfied with, say, 12.5 feet. They don't try and manage the lake for a certain height as we enter the wet season.
Okay.
But, to put this incredibly, complex issue and summarize it as much as possible for city residents here, the lower the lake is at the start of the wet season, the more capacity there is to absorb the rainfall that's going to come from storms.
That's right.
And history shows us, even on dry years, we still get water. And the other side of that argument is there are stakeholders that want the lake to be kept higher, in the name of water supply.
Right.
And for everyone listening out there, there's a couple very important talking points. That one, the City of Stuart is always going for zero regulatory discharges of Lake Okeechobee to come out on us.
That would be wonderful.
That term of regulatory discharges, zero regulatory discharge. We are not opposed to the Okeechobee waterway and boat traffic moving in
Right.
and out. But what we are opposed to is trillions of gallons of unnatural water being dumped on us. And the other thing we are going for is having to deal with our own tidal basin runoff. So even beyond Lake Okeechobee, we have the C-44 basin. The C-44 is that canal from the S-80 locks to the lake.
Yes.
And we get a tremendous amount of runoff into our river that rain might not have fallen in Lake Okeechobee, but it's not natural to come into the St. Lucie River. We have that up along the North Fork as well, the C-23 and C-24 basins. So what our goal is zero regulatory discharges and our own tidal basin runoff. That's the area where a drop of rain that falls in the city of Stuart would have naturally flowed into our waterways.
Okay.
If we can get those two goals, achieved, our waterways will be in good shape. And we're working towards that. Right now, though, again, start of the rainy season is the best time to get out on the water. It's been dry for a long period of time. Our water quality conditions are excellent right now.
You just mentioned, we're down to 1 minute, but you just mentioned the last time we had Lake O discharges was 2019. So we've been very fortunate. Our water has been able to heal somewhat. We certainly had local runoff, as you were just mentioning, in the meantime as well. But here we are today. I think we're dealing with hurricane, I think it's Agatha already. Came in from the Pacific, it's jumping over Mexico, and it's going to hit our west coast. So I don't know what kind of rain event that will bring us. But, here we go, folks. This is it. Start of the season. Hope for somewhat of an anticlimactic season, let's hope. But
Absolutely.
All right, so Mayor Matheson, thank you so much, City of Stuart. Great updates. Always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Casey. I enjoy being here and look forward to our next conversation.
Definitely will have you back.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week. We'll have Meet Your Candidates in the studio.